How fast do you live life? If your life had a speedometer, at what speed are you going? When I wake up in the morning, I think about the coffee. When I drink about the coffee, I'm thinking about the shower. When I'm in the shower, I think about the car. When I'm in the car, I think about the first meeting. When I'm in the first meeting, I'm thinking about the next meeting. When I'm in that meeting, I think about the car going back home. When I'm in the car going back home, I think about dinner. When I'm in dinner, I think about bed, and most of the times I am one meeting away. So if you think about life with a beginning and an end, it seems to me like if we have a chronological life and we are like one meeting ahead, one event ahead. So we are not reflecting back to take ownership of where are we now. So let me tell you about my daughter. My daughter now, she's 33 now, but when she was 13, let me ask you this question. How many of you have got a daughter of 13? Raise your hand. Well, most of you are already close to 13 anyway. So how many times do you believe a daughter would call a father, the dad, during working hours? Exactly. 0 or never. They will never call. So Natasha calls me, and I pick up that phone. And there she's crying. She's uncontrollably crying. I said, Dad. I said, what happened to you? Are you safe? Where are you? What happens? And boom, she hangs up. Oh, my God. So, but life is very predictable. So the first thing that I did, it was what? Is to call her again. And the line was busy. And then I called my wife. And the line was busy. For how long? An eternity, exactly, for hours. I don't know how long it was. And then I have an incoming call. And that call was from whom? From my wife. What do you believe? She told me how proud she was of, you are such a strong father looking after our daughter. Or she gave me a storm. It was the second, right? She gave me so much pain. And then she called me, I want to have a council meeting tonight. So that night I go home, and I was thinking about like men used to, at least me, used to think, which is just one thing. What is the name of the boy? I just wanted to have a name. So I was driving like, what is the name? What is the name? Get home, and I'm just looking for that name. And there she's Natasha crying, still crying after a few hours. And crying, and what happened? What happened to you? I said, you did not even notice? This is going on for such a long time. My life is so fragile and destructed, and you have not even seen it. This is incredible. And she started crying again. I said, I need help. I said, no problem. I'll tell you the help. Give me the name. I said, no, it's a different one. I have a much bigger problem, and you don't even see that. I said, but what is it? He said, I need a psychologist. I said, oh my God. The first one in the family that said, I need a psychologist. I said, but what happened? I've got acne. So now let me ask you this question. Is it acne a normal problem when you're 13 and you're developing, you're a teenager? Is that a normal problem or an abnormal problem? It's normal, right? Actually, if you don't have those type of situations, those type of problems are a sign of disease, that something related to your health, it's not developing well. This is how we go about business. Actually, this is how we go about in life most of the times. That we overreact to situations, we call them problems, but to situations that are normal for our age, that they are normal for our development. They are painful, but they are normal. And then we postpone and we put off those situations in business, also in life, that are really the difficult ones. For example, if you go in business and you have a startup company and they are lacking cash, that's a normal problem if you're in a startup company. If they don't grow, that is a very abnormal problem. When a company is aging, it's old, it's fine, it's normal and natural that have a lot of cash. But it would be abnormal if that cash is accumulated because they stop investing and they stop innovating in different things. So this thing about problems, if you reflect back and see is this problem, what we call problem, is that a natural step of my growth and my development? So let's go a little bit more deeper into business, which is when I was in the business school, and now we no longer teach it this way, but back then, business administration was primarily about find a competitor and crush it. So this is about fighting and competing and gaining spaces against other and having blood right and left. But what if you try to win and you are in the wrong ground? You're in the wrong terrain. Let me explain that this way, which is if you have a fight between a crocodile and a bear, raise your hand if you believe that the crocodile will win. Thank you for your full participation. Some of you believe that the bear will win? Yeah, the bear usually wins in the audiences. What about if there is a third space, which depends on the terrain? And this happens to us as human beings. This happens to us in the strategy of business as well, which is the crocodile is been made for the water. So it's cylinder shape, a long tail, camouflage short legs, the eyes on top. It's make it perfect and unbeatable actually in the water. But if you take the animal and put it on land, we'll need to drag like a 70 kilos tail that it's useless outside the water, bring up 200 kilos with these short legs and cannot even see up front because the eyes are pointing in the sky. Is this making sense? So very much at times we don't stop and reflect. What is the right terrain when I'm unbeatable? And this happens for businesses, this happens for us in life, which is what is that place, what is that terrain, what is that ground that I have been made for? So, but then once you have that ground, that is space, if you reflect back with your teams, then you need to engage the teams in the journey. And let me give you this news that you already know, which is there's no perfect individuals, but there are perfect teams at times. Problem here is that we surround ourselves with people like us or those we would like to become like, meaning that we surround ourselves with people of the same thinking, the same perspectives, the same skills, that they see the world the same as we do. And that is not enough to be effective in a world of so much complexity. So what if making a team that is successful after you found the ground is about different but together? Different but together. So one of my mentors, Ichak Adizes, explained that greatly with a metaphor of the hand. And the way he says is, look at the hand. The hand is a perfect metaphor of a team, which is different fingers but together. He says, can you imagine? You can look at your hand and say, can you imagine that your hand is made out of 5 thumbs? They are all the same but together. That is not effective. What is effective is different but together. So reflect back, and I'm going to ask you like 3 questions for you to pose in your mind. Number 1 is, are you in the right team? Whatever your territory is, in your business, in your family, in your friends, are you in the right team? Do you have the right team? And is that team made out of people different but together? So, but what about me? What about you? Now I have this dimension of a strategy and moving the teams, but what about me? So I have another son, the eldest son, Carlos. And when Carlos was 5, I was working in the USA. So every time I came back to Spain, I brought a VHS tape. Probably some of you don't know. If you go and visit museums, you will see a VHS tape. So at that time, Disney was bringing back again in the marketplace the classicals of Disney, the Bambis, the Peter Pans, the Cinderellas, and the like. So I brought it in English so that my son would learn English as well as he had a tape. It was Disney. And he was sitting, he was 3, he was sitting and watched the entire movie all through and through to the very end, including the credits. I just couldn't believe it. He's 3, including the credits. So one day I say, hey, Carlos, what is that you like the most of the movie today? He said, oh, Daddy, the scriptwriter is John Smith. I just couldn't believe it. Oh, my God, what's wrong? Second guy in therapy. Well, the third one, I'm number 1. Natasha, number 2. Carlitos, number 3. All of them in therapy. They all need therapy. Scriptwriter, what about Bambi and the mother? Oh, Daddy, it's so nice. So we have a call from school. after 3-4 years, and the teacher calls and says, I have difficult news. I said, what is that? He says, Carlos is struggling in mathematics. I said, oh my God. What did we do? What do you believe we did? We put him in mathematics reinforcement classes. So he was giving us signals because we didn't reflect. He was giving us signals. My ground, my terrain is movies. And we took him because I didn't know what we are sharing today. That he was telling us, this is my ground. Don't take me out of my ground. Don't put me in reinforcing something I don't have as developed because I have a gift that it's somewhere else. So what would happen if we had to spend, as I did, at least for a while, if we had to spend our lives fighting for what is wrong as opposed to building on what I am strong. So fighting and just trying to become mediocre by fighting and putting a lot of energy on the areas that are not in my terrain. And at the same time, there are some other areas that I've been gifted only and uniquely to be a super Catwoman or Superman on life. So after this happened, this situation, we experienced that situation, we went to a retreat with the Navajo Nation. It was a Navajo tribe. I don't know if you are familiar with the sacred lands of the Navajo Nation. That's in the USA. And the chief of the tribe would take us to salute the sunrise every morning. And the moment that the first beam of light was showing up in the canyon, he started to do a chanting. And the chanting was, beauty before me, beauty behind me, beauty around me, beauty underneath me, beauty above me, and beauty inside me. And he actually took physically his hand in his heart, closed the eyes, take a deep breath, and reflected, and then he smiled, and he said, let's start the day. And I asked the chief, why are you doing that? That's nice, but why you do that? Why you start the day reflecting in the moment? And he said, Carlos, because everything we need is already available to us all the time. That's why I recognize beauty before me, beauty behind me, beauty above me, beauty underneath me, beauty around me. And also what you don't have there outside, it will be inside. That's what it's beauty inside you as well. So all you need is within you now. Wow. So that helped me to start connecting strategy and terrains, the team made out of different but together, that we have strengths and we have weaknesses, but we can have much more power if we leverage on what we are strong at. And also that the resources we need, if you reflect back, they are around us and they are inside us. So it might be that we don't go too fast in life. It might be that we don't stop. At times we stop just to own and reflect, like those few distinctions that I wanted to share with you this afternoon. And if you don't stop and reflect, you may be missing that acne is a great thing for your development, because it's helping you. It's a sign of health that you are growing as a human being. Or you might be missing asking the question, what is that terrain that I'm a unique in the world and an unbeatable person? Or you might be not reflecting of, I am part of a meeting of different but together. Or maybe I might be missing that I'm fighting for the things I don't have and I ignore those gifts that I've been given. So I want to leave you with one last reflection, which is each of you can be eternally young, provided that you have more projects than memories. Let me say that again. Each of you can be eternally young, provided that you have more projects than memories. And projects, they don't start with an action. Projects, it starts with meaning. And the great meaning comes out of pause, reflect, and win. Welcome to life.